Hello everyone, it's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Welcome back to my channel, and it is time to get into my February 2024 currently inked, and I'm really excited to show you guys what I have inked up for this month. So what I'm doing here is I am stamping the words February 2024 as well as currently inked into my A5 Galen leather notebook with 52 GSM Tomoe River paper, and I'll go ahead and get started and show you what I've got inked up for this month. Alongside the writing sample, I'll also be doing a quick circle swatch here on this side just to show you the different properties of the ink that may not be seen through a writing sample, and I'll be using an pipette here from Amazon as well as the top of the sample ink file. So let's get started. So what I wanted to do with my currently inked is I wanted to make sure that I'm not just using the samples, but also using all of the bottles of ink that I have. So I'm trying to make it a goal to use either 4 or 5 ink bottles or 4 or 5 ink samples every month, just so I am actually using what I've purchased. So the first ink is not Carene de Tropic. I grabbed the wrong bottle. The first ink is Rouille d'encre, so Herbin Rouille d'encre, which means rusty anchor, and this is one of those dusty pinks that I really enjoy using. So let's make sure that I put just a drop here. You don't need a ton for the swirling of the ink, and this is a lovely dusty pink there. I'm going to zoom in here. And I have this currently inked in my Atelier Lusso Carina Hepalua that I got at the San Francisco Pen Show. I can leave a link up in the corner here for the, I guess, the unboxing video of this, but it's just a gorgeous work of art, this pen. So this is the Atelier Lusso Carina Hepalua. And this has a fine yobo nib, which currently has Herbin Rouille d'encre. And so far I am really liking the smoothness of this nib and how this ink is flowing out of this pen. So far, really beautiful. And even looking at the circle swatch, the way that shades, absolutely lovely. So that is my Atelier Lusso with Herbin Rouille d'encre. Next we have a Birmingham Pen Co. custom mix made by Katie. This is Shimmering Coral, and this was one that she had sent to me in our last ink swap. Was it November? December? I can't remember exactly. But I remember when I asked Katie to do this, she was going like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm like, just use your instinct. And I know she's a very creative but also scientific person, so I completely trust whatever she's going to work up in that very creative mind of hers. So where's the sample ink vial? And it's stunning. Like, that is bright and punchy, and it's got a little bit of shimmer in it as well. And I have it inked up currently in my Leonardo Memento Zero Grande 2.0 in Angel Skin. Now I know it's not an exact match, but I thought it was just, why not put this beautiful ink in this pen? Angel Skin, and this has a fine rose gold nib. So fun. So this is BPC Custom and Shimmering Coral. Oh, I can hear Henry. It's so smooth coming out of this pen, and what I like about this particular combination is that I know that it's a wetter combination, so I should get more of that shimmer in here as well, which I am looking forward to using. So that is my Leonardo Memento Zero Grande 2.0 in Angel Skin with the Birmingham Pen Co. Custom Shimmering Coral. The next one is a mix that I tried out when I got the where is it here? The Wearing Goal Heart Glitter Potion. So I wanted to combine it with Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho to try and kind of find the ink that I was looking to duplicate was Ferris Wheel Press, what was it called? I can't remember the name for the life of me. Queen and Castle, I believe it was. And I've written with this so far for the last couple of days and I've loved it. The shimmer is actually not too bad. Don't mind the blue because the sample vial that I had put this in, the label that was originally on it had turned a little blue. So it's not the ink that is blue, it's the label. So putting a little bit on there. And I've had a lot of fun experimenting with that glitter heart potion. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will link it below as well. And these two together, you can already see that shimmer, which is so fun. And I have it currently inked up in my Zodiac pen company, Water Lily Koi, in the Virgo model. I thought it was a really, really good match for this. And this currently has a fine Nouveau nib in here. So this is in that circle, overtook that. So this is Zodiac pen company, Virgo, in the Water Lily Koi, which is a Jonathan Brooks resin. Whoa, I was trying to write Water Lily Koi and then Jonathan Brooks came out instead, and it's got a fine nib. And this has Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho, oh my gosh, with heart, Wearing Goal Heart. And I am so far loving the combination. I do have to make sure that I do agitate the pen to get the shimmer going, but it's just the right hint of shimmer. It's not too much, and I really, really, really enjoy that so far. So that is my Zodiac Penco in the Virgo model in Water Lily Koi with the Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho mix with the Wearing Goal Heart Glitter Potion. The next ink we have here is Robert Oster Darling Harbour. This was sent to me by Jane of JP Pen and Ink. And I've had this in a sample before. I can't remember where I bought it from. Was it from Van Ness? I believe it might have been Van Ness or PenChalet, one of the two. But it's stunning. I really love the color of this. And I think it's a perfect match for the pen that I've put it in, which also, funny enough, comes from Australia. So I thought pairing the two of them would be really perfect. And look at that. That's gorgeous. And then I have put that in, you guessed it, my Just Turnings pen. This is the Mimas range in the Aussie Abalone. So this resin was poured by Stephen and his wife, and then what I had him do was also add in the finials, and then he also has the option of adding the clip and the metal rings here, which I absolutely love. I think it just adds so much detail to the pen. And what he also has now stocked is these cypress nibs. So I got mine in a fine. I'd love to try an extra fine cypress nib, but so far I like these. The first time I tried the cypress nib was actually through my Pens by Casey. So this is my Just Turnings, and this is the Mimas range in Aussie Abalone. And this has a fine cypress nib. And this has Robert Oster Darling Harbour, or Sydney Darling Harbour. And I think it's such a perfect match for the pen. And you can already see it drying in that circle swatch. That shading is incredible. And so far, the two combined, very smooth writing experience so far. But just look at how the two match. I absolutely love that. So that's my Just Turnings Mimas Aussie Abalone pen with Robert Oster Darling Harbour. Next we have Pilot Iroshizuku Tsuki-Yo. So this is, how many bottles have I done? So we did Herbin Rouille Donkle was a bottle, Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho was a bottle, and then Pilot Iroshizuku Tsuki-Yo is the third bottle that I am using this month. And I got the idea to use, you know, half of my currently inked will be my bottled ink and the other half samples. I got the idea from Simone, and I just thought it was a great way to use up my stash, because I found myself just using the new samples that were coming in and not using what I already have. And this is a great way to make sure that I do. Ooh, love it. I feel like I've done this in a pen before, but I can't remember which one. But I have this inked up in my Esterbrook Estie Nouveau Bleu. This one was my first Esterbrook Estie, and this was one that I won from Esterbrook. And I have in here, you can see it has the vintage nib adapter. This was from my Secret Santa through the Reddit Pen Swap Secret Santa, and I have on here the 9128 nib. There is actually an article, and I will link it in the description below, that lists all the different vintage nibs for Esterbrook, and this one I believe has a little bit of flex to it as well, which is always so fun to experiment with. So this is the Esterbrook, and it feels like it's got a little bit of an architect edge to it too. Estie Nouveau Bleu, and I'm just going to write the 9128 nib, and this has Pilot Iroshizuku, Tsuki-Yo. Wow, can I write? And let's see if it does have that line variation. Yes, just a little bit to make it fun to write with. Yeah. And then, yeah, a little bit of that architect line variation there as well. Really, really like that. This will be a fun one to play with this month. And now that I have that adapter, I will be on the lookout for vintage Esterbrook nibs and see what I can put in my Esterbrook Esties. So that is the Esterbrook Estie Nouveau Bleu with Pilot Iroshizuku Tsuki-Yo. The next ink is one that I've had for a while. This was sent to me in, I believe, a Secret Santa from last year, not 2023, but 2022. This is Sailor Tinterias Agave. And one of my goals this year as well is to work through my stash, really work through what I have rather than hoarding things, because I would prefer if things were actually used out of my stash versus just sitting there collecting dust. I think inks and pens are meant to be used, so why not take the chance and use them? And this one is actually a really, really beautiful kind of grayish blue. I really like this tone and saturation of blue, like gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. And I have it inked up in my Laban Rosa in Lilac. Now, when I first purchased this pen, it had a medium nib, and it was very wet and juicy, which made it too broad for my writing. So I had this ground down by Kirk Spear at the San Francisco Pen Show, and he ground it down to a medium fine for me, which wetness is still the same, but it's now just a finer nib that I enjoy. So this is the Laban Rosa in Lilac, and it's got a bit of that sailor feedback as well. Medium fine. And this is Sailor in a collaboration with Tinterias Agave. Oh, I love that. Just the combination is very wet and smooth. Lovely. And I think actually this ink, once I put the pen down next to it, you'll be able to see why I chose this ink for this pen, because there are some hints of kind of grayish blue within the resin. So that is the Laban, Rosa, and Lilac with Sailor Tinterias Agave. Next, we have another ink that was given to me by Jane of JP Pen and Ink. This is Robert Oster in collaboration with Desk Bandit. This is the Great Owl. And I do love me a good purple ink. And purple was never, funny enough, was never a color in my day-to-day life that I would reach for. My favorite color really is green, but purple has become a favorite when it comes to fountain pen inks. I have more purples than I ever thought I would ever own. But how beautiful is that? That's stunning. And I have it currently inked in my F3 pens in the Moonlit Raden. So this was originally a Model 3 and it was big and chunky, and there used to be a huge step from the grip section to the body. And Carl actually messaged me and said, send it back to me. I will return it for you to make it so that it's all flush. And now it's just so comfortable in the hand. And this currently has an extra fine Nouveau nib on here. So this is my F3 pens, Moonlit Raden. And this has an extra fine Nouveau nib. And it has the Robert Oster with Desk Bandit. And it is the Great Owl. Oh, so smooth. So smooth. Now, unfortunately, this wasn't the nib that originally came with the pen. The one that came with the pen actually had the big F3 Pens logo on it, but something happened where I opened the pen one day and the nib was bent. Thankfully, I have other spare Nouveau nibs that I could put in here so I could still use this pen. But next time at a pen show, I don't know if it'll be worth it for me to just get that nib repaired or just leave it as is, because I already have so many different Nouveau nibs. What are your thoughts on that? All right, it's such a pretty purple. And when you see the two side by side, you can see why I chose it, because there are those hints of purple, that chatoyance in purple, which matches perfectly with that ink. So that is my F3 Pens Moonlit Raden with Robert Oster and the Desk Bandits ink, the Great Owl. The next ink I have is one that I've also used once before, but it's one that I've been hoarding, and I told myself I do have to use this. It's gorgeous. And it is one of those inks that I am really considering buying a bottle of. It's Taccia Murasaki. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I think the theme of this year, one, is to really just use up what I have. And I mean, I'm absolutely okay with buying new inks and new pens, but I really just need to get to appreciating what I do have, because we can really get stuck into the next best thing and buying the next thing before we've really begun to appreciate what we have. And I'm taking wisdom from Simone, basically saying she wants to slow down this year and really enjoy what she has. And I do want to take that to heart as well. Like, how gorgeous is that ink? Beautiful. And I have it inked in my Waterman Carene. I love this pen. I've only had it for a few weeks, but it's been inked up with Murasaki, and I've just been wanting to reach for it every single day. My nails were kind of inspired by this pen, but just the snap cap. Oh, so satisfying. So I haven't been writing with this posted, but I certainly can post it, and it's still super comfortable. So this is the Waterman Carene in the Marine Amber. And this has a fine nib. And this has Taccia Murasaki. Gorgeous ink. And this nib is so smooth, so wet and juicy. I am really enjoying it. And this is actually the pen and ink combination that I have in my A6 5-year journal for the month of February. So I'm giving myself the opportunity to write with this every single day, and I'm very, very excited. So that is my Waterman Carene with Taccia Ume Murasaki. Last but not least is another ink that is new to me. It is Herbin Rouille. And for anybody who's watched my channel before, brown was never an ink that I had any interest in, and something's happened to me in the last couple of months. I like brown. Who knew? Whoever thought that I would say that there's so much complexity in a brown ink. But it is true. There is a lot of complexity in brown because of the amount of different inks or different colors that could make up brown. The different combinations of them could lead to warmer browns, cooler browns, more orangey tone browns, whatever. But I have it currently inked in my Sailor Pro Gear Slim Christmas Pudding. I didn't use this in December, even though it's Christmas pudding, but I love the colors of this pen, like the green sparkle in the cap. I love the brown of the body. And then surprise, you've got a different color grip section. And then you've got the red on the finial as well. So this has a medium nib and it is so juicy and smooth. So this is my Sailor Pro Gear Slim Christmas Pudding. Oh, so smooth, this medium nib. I love it. Medium. And it has Herbin Rouille. And I think it's a great combination. Oh my goodness. Sailor feedback is there, but it is so smooth. So smooth. Beautiful. Oh, all right. So that is my Sailor Pro Gear Slim in the Christmas Pudding with Herbin Rouille. So there are all of my inks and pens for the month of February. What I wanted to do as well, or what I've started doing for the year, is also comparing how it looks on different papers. Even though the main paper that I use on a day-to-day basis is the Tomoe River paper, I wanted to see what the inks would look like on this paper. So this is the Endless Regalia paper, and then a notepad that I use very often is the Rhodia pad and the Rhodia paper. So let's look at the inks on the Rhodia paper. One of the things that I have noticed actually with the Rhodia paper is that while it's smooth because it has that coating, it didn't feel as smooth, funny enough, as the Endless paper. It felt like the nib was catching more on the Rhodia paper than it was on the Tomoe River paper or the Endless paper. But looking at the differences in the inks, you don't see as much shading on the Rhodia paper, but I wonder if that's just how I was using the Speedball nib on that paper. But even in the, I'm just looking, is there a huge difference? It looks like, you know, for example, Robert Oster Desk Bandit, the Great Owl, is a little darker, but I'm not seeing actually a huge difference between doing it on the Tomoe River paper versus the Rhodia. The main thing that I'm seeing is that there's not a lot of sheen on Pilot Iroshizuku Tsuki-Yo, and you don't see a lot of shading in Herbin Rouille. So then also looking at the back, not like a little bit of shadow, no bleed through, good quality paper. So the next one is the Endless Regalia paper, and I feel like this is where I'm seeing more of a difference, just even in the line width. You can see that it feels like the Endless Regalia paper soaks up the ink more, or sucks up the ink more from the nib, so it almost feels like it writes wetter on the Endless Regalia paper. Even the shading looks different, like the tone of the ink or the saturation of the Herbin Rouille d'encre looks different. And Inaho actually looks a little different to me. Now I'm looking here, you still see some of the sheening in Pilot Iroshizuku Tsuki-Yo, and Sailor Tinterias Agave doesn't look too different. I think the main difference for me with the Endless Regalia paper is, one, just how it feels when you're writing on it. It's a very smooth paper. It just feels like it really draws in the ink from the nib, and you'll be able to see that with the back. It does bleed through. You can see all of the bleed through from the swatches, as well as even in the writing samples, just regular writing samples, it does bleed through a little bit. So what I'm going to end up doing with these two actually is I'm going to tape these here just to be able to compare it to my original writing sample. And I think being able to have this in my ink journal like this will be very helpful going forward, just to compare what inks look like. It's so interesting to see what inks look like on different papers. And I think one of the things that I'd like to purchase, and I think specifically the San Francisco Pen Show, is all of the different papers, like the bank paper and Cosmo Air Light, things like that. All right, so that is it for me. Now, I do have all of my pens here, but they're not in the right order, so I apologize for that. I am extremely excited for this. Okay, you know, it's driving me nuts. I'm gonna put them, all right, that's better. So there are all of my pens and inks for the month of February, and I'm really looking forward to being able to use these every single day. I'm most excited for the Waterman Carene in the Marine Amber with that Taccia Ume Murasaki, but I'm also really excited for Darling Harbour, as well as Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho with the Heart. Which one do you think will be my favorite at the end of this month? Let me know down in the comments below, and let me know what you guys are inking up for the month of February. I know this isn't really pink themed or anything like that, but I really like having a huge selection of inks to play with for the month. Once again, that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down below, and don't forget to hit that like button and to subscribe. Thank you so much, and have yourselves a great day.